Thank you, Minister. My name is Feng Cheng from China Radio International. As you mentioned just now that the 14th round of FTA talks will take place between China and Australia will take place soon. So what are your expectations out of this round after 1 year stalemate? And in your opinion, what will be the most tricky issues? Thank you.
My expectation is that we will discharge the recommittal of political will that was importantly made when Vice Premier Li Keqiang visited Australia at the end of last year and met with the Prime Minister, a recommittal that was reinforced in meetings I had with Chan Deming in, I think it was Singapore, later. The stumbling blocks still, in essence, remain the sensitivities surrounding agriculture. These are sensitivities I believe we can address, but we can't ignore. And it is clearly impossible for Australia to accept an FTA outcome that is lesser than China has already offered to New Zealand when it comes to agriculture. Agriculture aside though, my expectations are that as difficult as agriculture is, the big opportunities between Australia and China lie in the areas of services and investment. China has continued to argue its desire to invest in this country, and in the main, practically all of those investment proposals have been approved. But investment is a two-way street. Investment is a new form of trade. Investment is taking place not because you want to put a toehold in a country just for the purposes of it, but because you're trying to get closer to a bigger market or because you want to take part in a global supply chain. If investment is the new form of trade, we've got to have instruments and frameworks that reflect the modernisation of that development. And I think that the opportunity through the free trade agreement should enable us to get a modern framework in place that is reflective of the breadth and diversity of the economic relationship between Australia and China, which in my view clearly can be deepened and diversified even further.
Thank you, Mr. Koda Saleh from Saudi Press Agency. As you may know, Mr. Minister, the trade and investment relationship between Australia and Saudi Arabia has increased recently. The Saudi investment in the education market actually has jumped from $50 million in 2006 to $500 in 2009. Also, I believe the Saudi student who studied in Australia reached more than 11,000 in recent year. Also, the more than 120 local staff, Australian local staff, work in the Saudi culture attaché in Canberra. My question is here, how you as a minister evaluate this relationship and how the Australian government think to provide a support and promote this profitable market in Australia? That's the first question. Thanks.
I think the importance of Australia's trade relationship, it goes back, it doesn't matter with what country. Australia is a very diversified economy that has a reputation for that which it does well. It produces a quality product. The education sector is very much in that league, and that's why education services is now our third largest export. I think going forward in terms of export services, the interesting equation to contemplate is why just bring the students here if we've got the capability of doing if there is an ability to do the training within country. Now that involves some important decisions within countries about the role of education as a public good, whether it's provided only to government authorised institutions or whatever. But I was struck in South Africa at the presence of the Monash University there in Johannesburg, which is a $150 million investment and providing vital education and training opportunities to students from all over Africa in a way that is a seamless international university. So I think the institutional side of it, I think the opportunity is huge. So far as Saudi is concerned, I think on the bilateral front, there are important issues for them at stake. I think that not energy security, I think they're in a fortunate position of having that, but it's in oil. But it struck me when I was there how much resource was under the ground, not out in the Gulf, how much was under the ground and yet not tapped. This is true of many countries in the world. Africa, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, you just look at the region. If a world hungry for resource and energy security has the reality of the resource but the inability to extract it, then there is opportunity, it seems to me, for the strength of our mining sector, which isn't just about the fact that we have the commodity, but the fact that we're the most efficient producer and shipper of it anywhere in the world. We know how to rehabilitate, we know how to deal with indigenous communities and all of those sorts of things. So the services dimension of mining and the services dimension of agriculture become terribly important in addressing food security, which is a big issue for Saudi, and why they're looking to investment in this country to help secure that base. I think rather than trying to do it just through the investment drive, far better to try and get a framework that is encouraging of it, understanding the particular aspirations and the opportunities of the countries in question. Now, when it comes to trying to do the FTA with Saudi, the decision that's been taken over there is it has to be the Gulf as a whole. We would clearly like to advance the Gulf Cooperation Council FTA. That too has been stalled, but Saudi has a key role to play, and that's why I've spent some time with your government and visiting your country to try and convince them not only of the importance of the two-way relationship, not just either in education and students, but far beyond it, and the importance of looking at the region as a whole. And I might just finally make the point that one of the other things that struck me when I went to Malaysia and to the Middle East, the importance of Islamic financing. And this is why, as part of the Johnson report, and we announced the other day and released the working paper on this, I think there's a huge opportunity in the financial services sector in this space.